Hi, welcome back. My name is Surya, and in this video, we will focus on how to describe process diagrams in IELTS Writing Task 1. You will learn how to identify key features, organize your answer, and use the right language to describe each stage clearly and accurately. I'll guide you through step-by-step strategies to help you write an effective response. Let's get started. First, let's see what a process diagram is. In IELTS Writing Task 1, a process diagram is a type of visual that shows a sequence of steps involved in completing a task or creating something. It explains how something is created, developed, or transformed, and each step is usually shown through labeled images or stages. Your job is to look carefully at the diagram and describe the flow from one stage to the next in a clear and logical way. There are two main types of process diagrams: natural processes, such as the life cycle of a frog or the water cycle; man-made processes, like how bricks are manufactured or how electricity is generated from wind power. We will explore what these mean with some example images in the next slide. This task is different from bar graphs or line graphs. There are no numbers or trends to compare. Instead, the focus is on the order of steps, how things change or develop, and how each stage leads to the next, using clear and logical descriptions. That's what makes this task unique. The focus is on sequence, transformation, and clarity, not data or comparisons. In this video, we will work with a model essay based on a man-made process. In a separate video, I'll guide you through how to describe a natural process. In IELTS process diagrams, the flow can be either linear or cyclical. A linear process has a clear beginning and an end. It moves step by step in one direction. These are common in man-made processes, such as how a product is made. For example, the process of producing olive oil is linear. It starts with picking olives and ends with storage and sale. On the other hand, a cyclical process forms a loop. It typically represents natural processes that repeat over time, like the water cycle. These processes do not have a fixed end. They keep going. Recognizing the type of process helps you structure your description logically and clearly. Now let's look at a real IELTS Writing Task 1 question. This diagram shows the process of producing olive oil. Before you start writing, take a moment to analyze the diagram by asking yourself these questions. How many stages are there in total? Is it a linear process or a cyclical one? What are the inputs at the beginning, and what is the final output? What do the arrows and labels tell us about the flow and transformation? And finally, where does the process start and end? This kind of analysis will help you group your ideas and use the right language in each stage of your response. Once you have analyzed the diagram, the next step is to choose the right language to describe each stage clearly and accurately. In most process diagrams, we use the present simple passive tense because the focus is on the actions, not who does them. For example, the olives are picked and then washed in cold water. To show the order of steps, use clear sequencing phrases like first, next, then, after that, and finally. You should also use prepositions like into, through, from, and to describe how something moves from one stage to another. And don't forget to use strong process verbs that reflect what's happening in each stage, such as picked, rinsed, crushed, separated, and so on. And most importantly, keep your tenses consistent throughout your response. The present simple passive is the most common choice for both natural and man-made processes in IELTS Writing Task 1. Using accurate language helps you score well for grammatical range and accuracy, as well as coherence and cohesion in your writing. Feel free to pause the video and take notes on each language feature so you can use them in your own writing. Now let's begin writing the response, starting with the introduction. The goal here is to paraphrase the question using your own words. Don't copy the question directly. Instead, try to express the same meaning in a slightly different way. For example, if the task says, the diagram details the process of producing olive oil, you could write, the diagram illustrates the various stages involved in the production of olive oil. Notice how we have changed the wording but kept the meaning. This shows your ability to paraphrase, which is a key skill in IELTS writing. Finally, make sure to use the present simple tense, and especially the passive voice, since process diagrams focus on what happens, not who does it. Remember, your introduction should be short and clear. Just one sentence that tells the examiner what the diagram is about. After the introduction, the next part of your response is the overview. This is where you give a general summary of the entire process without going into too much detail. A good overview answers questions like, is the process linear or cyclical? Where does it start and where does it end? What are the main stages or transformations that happen along the way? You don't need to mention every single step, just the overall structure and key features that stand out. For example, you could say, overall, the process of producing olive oil is linear and involves several stages, starting with the harvesting of olives and ending with the storage and sale of olive oil. This gives the examiner a clear picture of what the diagram is about, and it sets up your body paragraphs that follow. Keep the overview to 1 or 2 sentences and avoid using numbers or detailed descriptions. Those come later. Once you have written your introduction and overview, it's time to write the body paragraphs. The key here is to group the stages logically. In this process, you can group the stages based on their function. For example, the first paragraph may describe the preparation steps, while the second focuses on extraction and packaging. Always describe the steps in the same order they appear in the diagram. Avoid skipping or rearranging them. As explained earlier, use the passive voice and sequencing phrases such as next, then, after that, once completed, and finally, to maintain cohesion. Try to vary your sentence structure and avoid repeating the same patterns. Use a mix of simple and complex sentences to show grammatical range. Now let's look at the body paragraphs of this process diagram. Feel free to pause the video wherever you want to understand how the paragraphs are written and how each sentence contributes to the overall flow. In the first body paragraph, we describe the preparation stages. It begins with the harvesting of ripe olives, followed by washing, crushing, and finally pressing. Notice how the passive voice is used consistently. For example, the olives are placed, The resulting paste is packed, which are subsequently pressed. These steps are grouped logically, and sequencing is shown clearly with words like initially, after cleaning, subsequently. This shows both grammatical range and clear organization. In the second paragraph, we move on to the final stages of the process. The liquid is left to settle. The oil is separated from water, and then the oil is packaged and delivered to shops. Again, notice the passive structures and how the paragraph flows using logical connectors like in the following stage, once the separation is complete, and in the final step. Together, these two paragraphs show how to group information effectively, describe each step clearly, and use appropriate language, all of which help meet the IELTS Task 1 Band 7 or above requirements. Here is the complete model answer based on everything we have covered so far, from analyzing the diagram to structuring our response using clear language and passive voice. You will see that the introduction paraphrases the question, the overview summarizes the whole process, and the body paragraphs are logically grouped and clearly written. Feel free to pause here and study the full response, or even try writing your own version using the same diagram. This kind of answer would meet the IELTS band descriptors for task achievement, coherence and cohesion, and grammatical range and accuracy. Let's now go through the language features used in the complete model answer. You will see that all sequencing words have been highlighted in yellow. These include words and phrases like initially, after cleaning, subsequently, in the following stage, once the separation is complete, and in the final step. These words help guide the reader through the process step by step, making your writing coherent and well organized, an important part of the coherence and cohesion band score. Now, all passive verbs and key process verbs have been marked in green. Examples include are harvested, are washed, are placed, is packed, are pressed, is left, is collected, and is delivered. You will also notice two important words near the beginning of the essay. The verb illustrates is used in the introduction to paraphrase the task. It's an effective and formal alternative to shows. The word overall is used to begin the overview paragraph, which gives a general summary of the entire process. This word signals to the examiner that you are starting your overview, which is essential for a good task achievement score. As you prepare your own Task 1 answers, try to use a mix of these sequencing phrases and passive verb structures to meet the expectations of a high-scoring response. Before we wrap up, here are some final tips to help you score well in IELTS Writing Task 1 when describing process diagrams. Start with a clear introduction. Paraphrase the question using your own words. Always include an overview that summarizes the process without too much detail. Use the passive voice because we are focusing on what happens, not who does it. Use clear sequencing phrases like initially, then, after that, and finally. Group the stages in a way that makes sense, for example, by function or process flow. Keep your writing objective and focused. Don't add explanations or opinions. And finally, aim for around 160 to 170 words to keep your answer well developed but concise. Follow these tips and practice with more IELTS process diagrams to improve both your confidence and your band score. Thank you so much for watching. In future videos, we will also cover natural or cyclical process diagrams along with useful strategies to improve your grammar, vocabulary, and writing structure. We will be exploring a range of English topics that are helpful for different competitive examinations. So whether you are preparing for IELTS or other tests, there is something here for you. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future lessons. And if you have any questions or want me to cover something specific, drop your thoughts in the comments. I would love to respond and help you out. See you in the next video right here on Beyond Classroom. Unlock your English potential.